The man saw the unconscious woman and got a bad idea. He reached out to do something bad to her. But then, he saw a bunch of money. He pulled out a knife and was about to cut her seatbelt to grab the cash. But then, she woke up. Why was she in the desert? It all started a few minutes earlier. A plane crashed in Colombia, sending smoke everywhere. A local criminal saw what happened and went to check it out. He saw a metal box chained up in the plane. He thought there must be something valuable inside. He and his crew pulled the box out, and he crawled into the plane. There was a woman in the cockpit with short hair passed out. The others were busy getting the loot, and the guy got his hands on the woman. He was going to cut her seatbelt off, but then she grabbed his hand, took the knife and stabbed him to death. The two guys outside were still clueless about what had happened. One of them even grabbed some bolt cutters to try and open the chain box. But just then, his buddy was gone for good. Right after that, a gun was pointed at his back. The woman disarmed him and forced him to pull the box to the car. "Can I go now?" No. This woman was a cold-blooded killer. She was no ordinary person. She was the notorious Dominique. After looking at the map, she drove into a small town and stopped at a gas station. The shop owner recognized the car. To not get involved, Dominique filled up the tank, buried the box, and then set the car on fire. That night, she was in a bar, surrounded by men who were checking her out. One man started chatting with her, trying to be friendly. He told her this town was pretty quiet, not many outsiders came through, and it was dangerous for a woman to be alone. He said that San Lucas used to be peaceful, but then criminals came and messed everything up. Suddenly, another woman bumped into Dominique, and they almost got into a fight. The friendly guy stepped in to stop it. Dominique thought he was pretty cool, so she poured him a drink. They went back to his place, and ended up in bed together. The next morning, Dominique pushed her hair out of her face, revealing her wound. It still hurt a lot. She didn't plan on staying there long, so she asked Julio about buying a car. He told her about a repair shop in the city center, where they also sold cars. Right then, Julio got a phone call. He was a local police officer, and he got an urgent call about a small plane that was shot down by criminals. He didn't seem to notice that Dominique was acting weird. Julio left for work for a few hours, then he took Dominique to the city center. Before leaving, he told her not to be shy, and that the bathroom in his apartment was broken. He told her to use the bathroom in the other room, which belonged to his sister Paulina and her daughter. After Julio left, Dominique went to the bathroom and met the whole Julio family. It wasn't easy raising a big family with a sick parent and a young child. Meanwhile, Julio arrived at the crime scene, where the bodies of the men Dominique killed were being kept. The killer had taken out their gold teeth. The other cops were used to it. This wasn't the first time. But Julio noticed a tattoo on one of the men and realized it belonged to Santiago's brother-in-law. This was complicated. They needed to find the killer quickly, especially since it was important to check if any strangers had been around lately. At the same time, Julio's family was having dinner. Dominique's head was pounding, and the three kids were constantly arguing. She walked in, looking pale, and then passed out. In her dream, she and her best friend were driving away, but their enemy was waiting for them. They started shooting at them. Her best friend died right there, and she got mad and shot back. But there was someone else hiding in the back. Dr. Medina saw that she was awake and came in to check on her. Her head wound was infected, and she was dehydrated. She needed to rest. Today was April's 18th birthday. April was Paulina's oldest daughter. They were having a birthday party. Julio came back home and invited Dominique to join them, saying she wouldn't be able to handle things if she didn't eat. Everyone was so welcoming, and she couldn't refuse, so she sat down. While eating, she asked Julio if he could take her to the city. He got a call from a coworker. They had caught two men connected to the plane crash, so they needed him to get there quickly. He asked his sister to take Dominique to the city, and her daughter came along. Paulina explained to Dominique that after her husband died at the dinner table from a heart attack, her daughter had stopped talking since then. The rabbit was a gift from her husband. Julio's life had been tragic too. He was one of the few honest cops in the town, but one day his family was attacked. His wife and children were murdered, but he miraculously survived. The killers turned out to be the cops that Julio thought were his friends. Meanwhile, the two guys from out of town were being beaten by the local cops. They were just tourists who hitched a ride to Colombia and got caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time. The chief of police, Santiago, told them that they are the law here. He said, "One of the guys you killed was my brother-in-law, Hector." They insisted. "We didn't hurt anyone," but the chief didn't believe them. He ordered his men to throw the body of one of the guys into a tank full of blood and body parts, threatening the unlucky guy to make him confess. The chief then ordered the body to be thrown into a smoking vat. while Julio stood there watching silently. At the same time, Dominique had arrived at the repair shop and picked out a white car, but it needed some parts. Dominique pulled out a wad of cash and told the owner to fix the car in 24 hours. That night, Julio's family had a big party for April's 18th birthday. Her boyfriend was there, but Dominique stood outside the crowd, unable to join in the festivities. Julio came out and saw her. He started the car and drove off. Dominique had no idea that this was the last time they would see each other. Julio gave his trusted superior in the Ministry of Internal Affairs the video evidence of the police killings. The ministry worked with intelligence agencies, and Julio was a spy investigating them. He had figured it out. The Carbel de la Cruz organization used the police as a hit squad. The chief was in cahoots with them. Every cop in the police department was stained with the blood of innocent people. Julio was one of them. Now, with this evidence, he could finally bring the chief to justice. He used the opportunity to try and join the American intelligence agency, but he didn't know that his colleagues were lying in wait for him and knocked him out with a gun. He was then taken to the chief. Julio had been betrayed by his superiors. The chief threatened Julio's family's safety, asking for the original video in exchange. If Julio refused, he'd pay the price. The next morning, April heard her mother's screams. When she went to see what was happening, she saw her uncle's head hanging on the door. Her boyfriend stopped her from going out. The people outside were all armed, and they couldn't defend themselves. Suddenly, the big guy at the door saw Dominique and looked surprised. She told the others to go inside. The big guy called someone to ask about Dominique's identity and why she was there. Dominique ignored him. The cops searched Julio's laptop, and the chief immediately ordered the entire Julio family killed so that the people in the ministry would know what happens when they mess with him. Dominique used the big guy's body as a shield, waiting until the first round of shots was fired before peeking out and killing them. But some escaped. Dominique sadly took Julio's head to his father. The escaped guy ran out and reported back to the chief. He told him that a crazy woman had killed a lot of their people. She even stole their laptop. The chief was furious and immediately ordered his men to block off all the roads around the town. The doctor who arrived was stopped and told that he wasn't needed. They lied to him, saying everyone inside had been killed by criminals. Dominique knew she was in for a big fight. She gathered the weapons and ammo left by the police, but there wasn't much, so she had to be careful with them. The chief arrived at Julio's house and was surprised to see the bodies lying on the ground. Dominique pointed her gun at him. The chief realized she wasn't easy to deal with and tried to negotiate. He said he would let everything go if she handed over the laptop. Dominique demanded that he let Julio's family go. The chief refused, afraid of taking the risk. He was better off bringing more people to take care of Dominique. After all, the next town was 20 miles away, and he had his men blocking all the roads out of town. Ultimately, they couldn't reach an agreement, and a big fight was about to happen. As soon as he got back, the chief ordered everyone to gather. He requested reinforcements from headquarters. Meanwhile, Paulina got in touch with a doctor. He had been interested in her for a long time, and she was willing to do whatever it took. He promised to send an ambulance. Dominique had to take everyone through a small path on the mountaintop, where they would meet. But it was getting dark. Paulina was pregnant, and Julio's father was wheelchair-bound. They had to figure out a way to stay the night. They decided to leave early the next morning. Dominique quickly instructed the children to get ready for battle. She told them to find wood to secure the windows, and she put on her bulletproof vest, found the main power switch, and shut off the electricity. She installed high-powered spotlights in the corners of the house and heated a pot of oil in preparation. Soon, night fell. Dominique used the police walkie-talkie she had found earlier to confirm that the enemy was at the door. She gave April a walkie-talkie and changed the channel. She told April to turn off the power when she heard 3 clicks, then turn it back on 10 seconds later. This was based on the fact that human eyes need 10 seconds to adjust to seeing from bright light to dark. Even if they saw Dominique, they wouldn't be able to see her clearly. But then, Paulina's water broke. This wasn't a good start. Meanwhile, a group of police officers were gathered at the front door of Julio's house. The captain was going to lead the attack. He told them to kill everyone in the house and then find the laptop. Dominique locked April in a room and told her boyfriend to hide with her and protect her. But Julio's father didn't want to hide. He wanted to fight to protect his family. Dominique emphasized that the pregnant woman and the children had to remain silent to avoid attracting the enemy. When she heard that everyone was in place, she quickly used the wood to cover the hole in the wall. The enemy was attacking the yard. Dominique hid behind the car. April and her boyfriend were ready, waiting for Dominique's signal. As soon as she saw the enemy enter, Dominique gave the signal. April counted to 10, and turned the power on. Everyone's vision narrowed. Dominique closed her eyes tight. After 5 seconds, she turned the power off. Dominique immediately rushed out and started shooting. The police couldn't see her and started firing blindly, even shooting their own team. After she killed a few, Dominique found a place to hide. She then attacked them from behind, taking them by surprise. But her tricks were running out. She was relying on the high-powered lights to blind the police. Dominique quietly snuck behind the cops and started killing them, taking their guns and continuing her attack. The captain realized Dominique's battle strategy was working. He ordered his men from a distance to break the lights. But Dominique was too fast. The first team was wiped out before they could even shoot the lights. The captain sent a second team in, ordering them to prioritize finding the power box and destroying the lights. Unfortunately, they didn't realize Dominique was hiding amongst the dead bodies. While they were checking for survivors, she used the walkie-talkie to signal April. When the lights went out, Dominique stood up and shot them. Seeing that his second team was also wiped out, the captain ordered the third team to keep going. Dominique had moved inside to fight. Paulina had given birth, but the baby's cries were a serious danger. A group of police officers was getting closer to April in the garden, and some were entering the house. Dominique gave the signal, and April turned the lights back on and played music through a speaker. The entire third team fell. The captain was furious. He pulled out a grenade launcher and fired, sending Dominique flying. After struggling to get back up, she grabbed a pan of hot oil and prepared to teach him a lesson. The captain ordered the remaining officers to go around the back and attack from behind, looking for Julio's family. But when he entered the house, the hot oil was splashed in his face. He endured the pain and grabbed Dominique's neck. Julio's father tried to help, but he was a terrible shooter. He missed, and the captain shot him. Things got even worse when 2 officers broke down the back door. They followed the sound of the baby's cries to Paulina's hiding spot. They broke down the wooden door and saw the woman and her newborn baby. They hesitated for a moment out of pity. But Dominique was being choked by the captain. She managed to kick the gun towards Julio's father. He shot the captain in the head. Dominique grabbed the gun and shot the 2 officers who were about to kill Paulina and the baby. The family's desperate fight for survival was finally over. But Julio's father had lost too much blood and couldn't keep running with the others. Paulina hurried to show her baby to her father before he closed his eyes for the last time. April's boyfriend also died. Dominique threatened the last remaining cop, telling him that even though the police had suffered heavy losses, Julio's family had been wiped out. After getting what she wanted, she knocked him out with a gun. The next morning, Dominique poured gasoline and set the place on fire. But she didn't realize that the chief had managed to put out the fire and never discovered Julio's family's bodies. This would only lead to more tragedy. The evidence that the police were working for the organization was still in Dominique's hands. If it was revealed, both the police and the organization would be doomed. So the chief wanted to use her people. Meanwhile, everyone reached the mountaintop where they had planned to meet. While they were resting, Dominique discovered a secret on the laptop. Paulina wanted to thank Dominique and told her about her aunt and uncle, who used to be part of the criminal organization, but later turned their backs on it. If they ever needed help, they could count on them. Then, they climbed to the top of the mountain. The doctor had been waiting there for a long time. Before leaving, his daughter gave Dominique her favorite teddy bear. Dominique told April that if she was sad, she had to accept it because she was a born warrior. But just as everything was about to end, a bullet ended the doctor's life. April immediately jumped into the car. Dominique tried to hold off the enemy, giving everyone else time to escape. But unfortunately, the enemy had a sniper. Dominique had to stay down, while April tried to start the car. Just as Dominique killed the sniper, April managed to start the car. But instead of hope, there was hell waiting for them. A car with a machine gun was right in front of them. Bullets rained down on the car. April tried to dodge, but the car flipped over. She grabbed her gun and got out, shooting one of the guys, but she was still hit by the machine gun and killed. Then, the car was riddled with bullets until it exploded. Even though Dominique ran as fast as she could, she was too late. She was filled with rage and killed everyone in front of her, but Julio's family was already gone. She had to get revenge. Dominique first released the video evidence, which led to the chief's arrest. He quickly brought his family to beg the head of the Capella de la Cruz organization to let them into his mansion. The place had over 100 soldiers, fully armed. Nothing could get in, not even a fly. But Dominique didn't think that way. First, she took the car she had bought and dug up the wooden box. Inside, she found guns and ammo. Dominique equipped herself from head to toe. Then, she went to the mansion. Dead bodies were everywhere. The chief and the head of the organization were both killed by Dominique. Finally, Dominique went to the church and gave Paulina's necklace to her uncle. That concludes the story of Dominique. What did you think of the movie? If you thought it was good, comment 1. If you thought it was okay, comment 2. Thank you for watching. See you next time.